and immediately he landed the role on The Wire.
Pat Moran was casting for a new HBO pilot series titled The Wire.
Linda Townsend submitting me to my first acting job, and I remember her submitting me saying, it's a pilot, so this show is not picked up yet, so I'm going to submit you to this casting director named Pat Moran. And I had heard about Pat Moran. I heard she was no pushover, and she would tell you straight up, if you were doing good or you wasn't doing good. I remember reading for the character Weebay. One thing about me, I was always good at also remembering lines. I could look at a paper and just see, dialogue on the paper. And I guess that comes from me being a hip hop artist as well, because with the dancing, I was incorporating later on down the line like hip hop music. I was rapping, so I knew I was good with just remembering lines. So when I read for Weebay, she was like, okay, you did pretty good. We'll see what happens. So I left out of that audition not expecting anything. She said, you got a call back. My manager, agent, Linda Townsend called. She said, you got a call back. That's crazy. It's your first audition ever, and you got a call back. I went in there and I slated for them, and they had smiles on their face, and they were just like, okay, and action. So they had me read, and I cracked. I kind of fumbled over some words, and I told them straight up. I said, this is my first time doing this. I ain't really used to doing this. Not that was right. You know what I'm saying? I probably shouldn't have told them that. I remember Pat Moran saying, okay, that's fine. This is in front of all these people in this room. She said, okay, that's good. But this time, get it right. I probably can't even remember what I read after I left out, but I left again saying I probably won't get this role. And then I got a call back 2 weeks later. They said, Trey, you didn't get the role of Weebay, but we casted you for the character Malik Poot Carr. That was the beginning of a huge journey for me.
He was casted for a role created just for him, Poot. And although Trey was originally supposed to play this role for only a few episodes, he wound up being a cast member for the entire 5-year run.
I went through the whole thing. I went through negotiating a nice contract. I went through going through fittings and being around, seeing people in the table reads like Wood Harris, legendary actor, Wendell Pierce, some of the beginning stages of, Michael B. Jordan, Idris Elba, J.D. Williams, who played Bodie, Larry Gilliard, who played D'Angelo. Some of these people who I've really looked up to, and I'm like, whoa, this is serious, because I'm on set, and me, I'm like the rookie. I'm the kid that from Forestville, Maryland, ain't never, I did my dancing thing, but I've never been on no real live set.
When I met Trey Chaney years ago, it was at a party, actually, and I think it was in Southwest. Working with Trey on The Wire was awesome. Our first day on set was actually at the Co-op, when we had a meeting with Idris Elba with Stringer Bell. They had everybody trailers, and the names on the trailer, so when we got the script and we went for rehearsals, everybody was in there checking what's up? He was like, man, somebody told me somebody from the city was coming and they had a good role. And after that, we was just boom, boom. So they saw me and Trey lunchtime. We'd be off on the side talking, laughing, just getting everything, the flow of it, because that was my first time. You know what I mean?
I had no idea how long or how him and I would have to get acquainted. I didn't know we were going to end up spending so much time together, because he actually ended up playing, the lieutenant to me, who I was playing lieutenant to, various other characters. But we ended up forming a bond, particularly on set, because we really had to spend a lot of time hanging out together,
Then I was only supposed to be in 2 episodes in the first season. After the first episode and it was submitted, then we got a call saying that HBO, they greenlit a season. They're gonna pick up 13 episodes. So, mind you, I was told I was only gonna be in 2 episodes. But then, the second script came, and I started having lines. The third script came, the dialogue beefed up.
Well, Trey and I met the very first day of taping or filming for The Wire.
The Wire was in full swing. Trey's character, Poot, was getting more and more lines. Poot kept surviving season after season.
Being on HBO and just filming with him. So it was just like we got that chemistry together, and it was just like super fun. Like just a breath of fresh air. Just always fun on set. And it was like crazy though.
When it was on, we didn't have a lot of viewership, but to go all 5 seasons and be like one of the last men standing on The Wire, I'm known across the country, I'm known across the world. People know about the show. They know the character I played.
At 21, Trey's life once again would be changed forever with the introduction to his future wife, Aisha. Although she was older and had a daughter from a previous relationship, nothing would turn him away from her. She was smart, strong, and beautiful, and Trey didn't waste any time to go after her.
I met Trey at a nightclub, believe it or not. It was he was turning 21. So I met him at the club. I noticed him from the show because it was only on for they only had 2 episodes on so far. And I was, watching the show. So when I saw him, I said, oh, that's that guy that's on that new show. So my cousin was with me, and I said, and I had just took my braids out of my hair, so my hair was like a mess, so I had a wrap on it. So I said, oh, you on that show? He was like, yeah. I said, oh, you do good work. And so I was going to walk away, and he pulled me back. And I was like, okay, what's up? And he was like, do you date younger men?
Aisha, a postal worker and fashion designer, had recognized him from The Wire and decided to entertain him. They started dating and were married in November of 2004. The Wire's bloody story carried on for 5 whole seasons, spanning from 2002 and ending in 2008.
So I had a great ride with The Wire, from 2002 when that show premiered to 2008 when it went off air, 5 seasons. My expectations were so high, it was through the roof high. I just remember when it ended, I said, okay, I'm getting ready to be a big star. Millions of people have been watching me on this incredible show, and my management, they wasn't calling as much no more. My celebrity friends who, I would kick it with from time to time, didn't see much of them no more. They were, everybody was in another part of the world.
When The Wire ended, Trey had expectations that his career would soar and put him on the map to new projects. But projects didn't come as plentiful as he had hoped, and Trey would find himself taking on a traditional 9-to-5 job with a glass replacement and repair company. The Wire captured American audiences like no other show. Poot, Trey Chaney's character, made it out alive after 5 bloody seasons and ended its acclaimed run in 2008. Despite The Wire's success, major television and film productions continued to lack strong written roles for African Americans. In 2010, David Simon, the creator of The Wire, spoke with Christopher Seneca of The Washingtonian, who summarized the interview in his article, saying, David Simon, The Wire's creator, sees Chaney's struggles as problematic of the lack of good roles of African American actors. In 2008, Simon told National Public Radio that there's a wonderfully deep reservoir of African American talent, and they're not working. Nobody's writing the parts, and what they're writing is marginal at best.
After The Wire, it was a big struggle that happened in Trey's life. He had to move back home with me and his mother, and financially, they were not doing well, him and his wife Aisha. And I think Malachi was, 6 or 7 months old. They moved in with us over in Clinton. And things were going not real good.
Phone calls for gigs seemed to stop, and Trey, determined to make it, began to sell his CDs of his rap music. The music was powerful and inspirational, but his name didn't lend to seeing them sell.
We out here at Walmart right now, the joint.
Trey could be found in Walmart parking lots or pounding the hard pavement of New York City streets to sell his mixtapes, with his childhood friend Torrance Hall steadily by his side. He sometimes came away with $20. Other times, he came away with laughter and ridicule from people seeing this so-called star fall from grace.
You know, everybody was in another part of the world. Everybody was in LA, New York, Atlanta. And I found myself still, you know, here in DC, and I was like, okay, maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna keep on submitting to different casting directors, and I kept submitting. 1 year had went past. When it ended in 2008, 1 year it went past 2009, I didn't work. So I was like, as an actor. So I said, okay, I'm gonna move to LA. So I moved to LA for 2 months, no work. So I had to come back home. So when I came back home, you know, I'm broke. I don't got no money to help her, you know, pay rent. You know, I don't got no money to help provide for my family. So my attitude was changing during all of this. I didn't really understand what was happening. I didn't understand it, you know, a hiatus being off from a, you know, coming off of a TV show. I didn't understand it. I thought, you know, this is how it works. I see people on TV all the time. I seen other actors from The Wire go on to be, you know, huge, whether they were just starting out, but they did other things other than The Wire. So I wasn't getting work.
You know, Trey be out hustling, you know, trying to sell this, sell that. And one day I just told him, it ain't gonna work. You're getting older now, it's not gonna work.
I watched people walk past, laugh at me. Some people supported though. So I would take whatever little support I could get to, you know, just help my wife out any way I could, even though I was gone. But it was still terrible. We were arguing every single night. It was just bad for the kids. It was bad for me. Just being out there on them streets in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, everywhere I went.
It was some days he was out on the corner in DC trying to sell his CDs, his music, and even his book. And people would walk past and they wouldn't support, they wouldn't buy it. And some days he'd be out there for like 8 or 9 hours, and he would come home with $20. That was all he made for the whole day. And he had a whole book bag full of books. He may have sold one book and one CD.
For 2 years, Trey lived away from his wife and kids, the entire time watching his son and daughter grow. At that time, he reflected on himself, thinking back to why he had entered the entertainment industry to begin with. And then, in 2010, Trey hit a wall. He and Aisha separated.
And I knew it was getting bad when him and Aisha split up. And I'm like, we don't do that. Now that we don't do.
I had moved next door to my wife when I moved out. My sister ain't had nowhere else to go. We both was living with our parents, and my sister said, I got a new place, but it's beside your wife. You know, when I don't really, it's nowhere cheaper that I could stay.
It took a toll on my daughter because she was in the 12th grade. It was her senior year, and her father wasn't in her life. So that's the only father she really known was Trey being in her life. And, you know, seeing us not being together, it took a toll on her a lot.
Me and my sister moved next door, so I would watch my wife while we were separated, walk outside with my son. He'd look over at me, Dad. He thought he had, always thought he had 2 apartments back then. Still to this day, I don't think my son know that me and his mom separated.
I think this went on for like 9 months. And I'm talking with him as a father, as a man too, because you got your own family, you got a wife, you got a son. But at the same time, all this, she's over there in an apartment and you here, that's not a good look.
If you're not with your wife, you're gonna take care of them. You're gonna take care of your son. Even though he was here, he was there every night tucking his son in.
And you pray with your son.
And he made sure he said prayers with his son constantly.
And that's just the way it went. And if it didn't happen like that, you know, give me my key back to my house. Because there's certain things that just have to, if you really want rock bottom, go out there and get it.
Trey reached out to his childhood friend Torrance to ask for some advice.
I ran back into one of my good childhood buddies, Torrance Hall. We call him Booby for short. But I ran back into him, and I was just telling him, I'm like, man, the wire's over. I'm not getting no calls no more. I don't work. I don't got no job. I don't got no money. And he said to me, you're a walking billboard, whether you know it or not. And you need to understand taking more of an independent route. Because this is the age of independency. You need to take more of an independent route. And he put that in my head.
Trey has transformed into an independent machine. He didn't beg for work, he created the work. He didn't go looking for handouts. He set an example. He didn't take no for an answer. He became undeniable.
I was getting with independent filmmakers because I was able to use the platform I had on the wire, and being in their face out in the streets, I was able to get with other independent filmmakers and get a little guest star role or whatever in their films.
But even with all the building momentum, Trey still felt empty inside.
During this process of me being down, I kind of like took the independent route to make myself hot again in the street. It had to start back in the street. But at the same time, I was still missing something. I was still missing that love from my wife and my kids. And then another thing too, I started focusing more on what's important in Trey Chaney's life other than chasing money, other than chasing the business. And what was more important to me was getting my wife back and my kids and focusing on how can I continue to provide for them even if I'm providing for them with what I'm doing in the street.
It's go season.
Yeah. Hey, see y'all, turn me up a little bit. Plot plan, put myself in position. When I landed the wire, was my first audition for WeBay back in 2001. Ended up playing Poot.